Hey all, thanks for joining me and apparently my cat down here. Going to be talking about the economy, how a certain military analyst is speaking along the lines of some of our elders regarding what's going to happen to America's economy. So I'm going to show you the video right now from Dialogue Works with Anima and Colonel Wilkerson. Once again, let's hear what he has to say.
I would wonder if he has any strategic
He's talking about Trump.
sort of plan in the way that he's behaving right now.
No,
He has started something that. What is your understanding of that?
my understanding is that Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, is going to have, right after Christmas, maybe even before New Year's, but certainly in the new year, a $3 trillion debt satisfied within 24 hours. In other words, it's going to come to roost just how bad a fiscal situation the empire is in. The only person in the world, the only country in the world that has the money to bail the empire out is Xi Jinping's China. No other country has that kind of money in its current account surplus. So Scott Bessent is going to have to either crawl on hands and knees or make a diplomatic sortie to Beijing. And he's going to have to get really serious about saving the empire in the interim, in the moment. That is going to be a reality. If he hasn't told Donald about this yet, or if Donald's not apprised of it, I'm really fearful that what I'm hearing is that even if you told Donald Trump the almost fearful fiscal circumstances the United States is facing right now, you wouldn't get a response that made any sense. Much the way we're seeing just little episodes of every now and then in his interviews, where you just are left with either he's the crudest, stupidest man on the face of the earth, or he's really losing it. I think it's the latter. And this is a reflection of that in a way that's very disturbing if you understand what's happening to us right now. And if you understand why we really are doing what we're doing in so many different places, but in spades in our own hemisphere and with Venezuela. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because the only way we can even put a stop temporarily to the shift of the world's oil markets away from being denominated in terms of sales and transactions in US dollars to the basket of currencies that range from the rupee to the yuan, renminbi, to even some other currencies that are being used by other BRICS countries now for oil sales and oil purchases, and most importantly, being accepted by the oil distributor, including Saudi Arabia. The only way we can put just a momentary halt, and I mean momentary in geologic time in a certain sense, to that is by getting our hands on instantly 300 billion barrels of oil, especially oil that our refineries are set up to refine in a significant way, whereas we are not set up to produce diesel, for example, in other ways. So you not only bring the truck fleet in America to a grinding halt, you bring America to a grinding halt, and you bring the oil markets into a domain we've never seen them before. That is going to be so traumatic for the United States that I fear for what might happen if Trump isn't already apprised of it, and he's just not making it known that he's apprised of it because he understands viscerally how serious it is And he's doing this kind of off the cuff stuff to explain what he's doing, which is otherwise maybe somewhat understandable, in order to not give the cat away, so to speak, because we're in trouble. We're in deep, deep trouble. When Besson is presented with that $3,000, $3 trillion, wish it was 3,000, $3 trillion debt at the beginning of the new year, and the only country in the world that has the money to bail us out, so to speak, is China, the reality is going to hit these people. It's going to hit even dunderheads like Marco Rubio and dunderheads like Pete Hegseth and others in the administration, if they are apprised of it properly. What are we going to do then? I have no idea. But all these little crises, and I mean little crises like Ukraine, even Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, Israel in general, and Venezuela, are going to fade into the woodwork, or they're going to stay out there prominently as we disappear from the power circles in the world, catastrophically possibly, because the economy is going to collapse. Because we are going, Nima, to fall apart in a catastrophic way that the world hasn't seen in the modern age. We're going to collapse. Physically, we're done.
He's basically saying we're toast. He's saying we're toast. Everything's going to fall apart. Nothing's going to be nothing, apparently. No money because of this, as he explained. Our debt, everything else, the dollar's going, that kind of stuff. Wow. Okay. Now I'm going to share what a couple of our elders said. This is from the Holy Wisdom channel. I've used this several times. I've showed this several times, but now I'm just pinpointing on a couple things here. Father John Kalides, he used to say that about America, that America will cease to be a superpower. First, an event will occur that will bring the nation to its knees. And what do you think that is? I think that is exactly the economic issue. Following this, although it could be the Civil War or the, I forget what it was called, the uprising, that's supposed to go on as well. But this could be, I would think, the economy. Because when the economy collapses, chaos, anarchy, desperate people running around, the job issue, the food issue, everything. Yeah, I can see that right after, as the result of the collapse of the economy. Then it says, following this, America will suffer a severe geological and biological disaster. Probably the earthquakes that were mentioned by the elders in this particular piece on America. There's a whole list of them going through here that talk about this big earthquake coming, as I've said. So, but we're talking about the economic disaster that's supposed to hit. Like I said, I've heard everything from the economic experts. I've heard anything from, we're going back to, it's going to be like the 2008 crash, recession, actually, the 2008 recession, to, no, this is going to be another Great Depression. And then some that are saying, no, this is going to be worse than 1929. And then you hear, of course, he's not an economist, Colonel Wilkerson basically saying, we're toast, that things are just going to fall apart. And then you see what the elders are saying. Now, anybody who's been following the economy knows that our economy is doing bad. You don't need a prophecy for that. You see that it's not doing well. But everything is going in that direction that the prophecies have said, right? So one other portion of this I wanted to show you was the let's see, I have it written down. I'm gonna go here. Okay, so
On September 14th,
the elder made the following statement. This is 2021. This is the elder who wishes to stay anonymous. He says the global economic collapse will begin in America. The dollar will become worthless and the euro will vanish entirely. This financial breakdown will occur within an hour, at midnight, while the world sleeps, unaware of what is unfolding. In the words given, this moment will mark the lockdown of the banks. Okay? So it's just going to apparently just happen overnight. Now, it's interesting because I believe Colonel Wilkerson basically said, where was that? Basically said that things were gonna fall overnight.
I don't know what that means. I really don't. I thought I've told you before. I thought I would be dead. I'll be 81 in January. I thought I would be dead before I would see the collapse of the American empire. I no longer think that. I think if I live another 5 to 7 years, I may see it. Certainly the beginnings of the unraveling, I will see. And Trump is presiding over it. You couldn't ask for a more poignant disaster in terms of its components. You have the physical component, you have the military component, you have the social component, call it the domestic component, and then you have the component of the most incompetent leadership in the executive branch that we've seen in the history of the republic. Across the board. I don't hold out a lot of hope for any of these crises because they all have their own rationale right now, which is anything but what the papers are reporting or what the president is talking about. And that, 1.9 whatever million barrels of oil, whatever it was, inconsequential, utterly inconsequential, except to people like Cuba, for whom I understand some of it was bound. And Cuba is in really hard shape right now because they're getting any fuel oil. And other people in the world that might have been on the end of that shipment and end of shipments that are coming out now. And the high seas piracy and the breach of international law, domestic law, the unconstitutional actions that the president is taking, all of those are going to be subsumed in a firestorm of physical problems we haven't seen the like of in this country in anyone's current lifetime. And I would argue we haven't seen since the Civil War in terms of disaster. And that's going to be really traumatic for Americans. They're the ones who are going to suffer really badly from this. The Trumps and the Musk and all that, they'll do whatever they have to do. But we are headed for disaster. And this is all spun off that direction, I think. I think Maduro is the most visible element of it because he's sitting on those 300 billion barrels of oil. It's not a good time to be an American, I'll tell you that.
Wow. It struck me listening to him talk about this. And I just kept remembering what our elders had said. And he's sitting here talking like this. And it sounds so dire, his words, Colonel Wilkerson's words. Oh my gosh, he sounds like the world is going to end for America. Anybody listening be like, wow, he's gotten a little bit too, critical and skeptical and, misanthropic, and all this negative. But so when you really think about it, not when you listen to the elders. Yeah. And then I'm going to add this one other one that's just what Elder Jonah had said regarding Elder Jonah of Odessa had said I think back in like 2015 or something. When did he say this? Okay, so no, 2012. Yeah, so he predicted this in 2012. He predicted what happened with the Ukraine and Russia war, but in this instance, I'm talking about the economy, so we're going to go to that. He says, dollars will be scattered on the ground like paper. The wind will be carrying them away like autumn leaves, and no one will need them. Wow. According to Elder Jonah, China will play a huge role in victory over America. Yet China will then want to anyway, this part right here. China will play victory on America. Yeah. Well, you just heard Colonel Wilkerson said China's the only one that can bail America out. Yeah. Dollars are going to be worthless. Going to be just like in the breeze like leaves. I mean, that's... What's weird is you listen to this, you hear this, and it just sounds so unreal that you can't even wrap your mind around what's being said. It's not easy. So let's all continue to pray. Let's keep praying that God will lessen what's to come. Prepare ourselves in a way. I'm not quite sure what we can do other than if a blackout comes, we have our... We know a pious woman from when we lived in Pennsylvania. She's up in a nursing home now, but she's a pious woman, and she, back in like 2022, she warned my son. They're friends. She's like a mentor to him, and she said, make sure you have candles and batteries for your flashlights, because the electricity apparently is going to go off, according to her, and it's going to be for a while. She said, I don't think the kids are going to take it too well because they're used to all of their electronic equipment, is what she was saying. But anyway, so things will come, but I don't know. She said not to worry about any of this last time my son talked to her several months ago. But in any case, we're not really worried. We just want to be prepared. But it just sounds kind of crazy what they're talking about, even though we know the elders have said this. It just seems to be moving in that type of direction. It doesn't seem to be doing any kind of reversal to stop this this crash that's going to be happening. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Pray for America, please. We need them. We need the prayers. Thanks so much for watching. As I said, please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel if you enjoy my content, find it informative, and you like to listen and watch. Also, if you'd like to support me further, you can hit the super thanks button below the video or buy me a coffee. There's a link in the description. And if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you know when my videos come out right when they come out. Thanks so much again. I really appreciate all your support, all your comments that you make under my videos. I read them all. They're very insightful. They're very interesting. They add to the conversation that I like to discuss with you all on certain issues. So, have a good evening.